Now, hopefully you can hear me. There's only one person there, but JF, are you there? And can you tell me whether the sound is working now or not? Or anybody out there? Is anybody out there? So just to pop something in the chat, that would be great if you could. Just to let me know. Right. So two of you have now. Hi, Sally. Yes. Hi. Can you actually hear me? Because we've had trouble with this. Sounds working. Well, that was easy, wasn't it, chaps? Okay. Oh, I hate that. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I have learned something about the icon for the sound microphone. Like, in other words, if it's got a little green dot, it's working clearly. Okay, right. You can hear. It's a miracle. Yeah, please. That would be great. Thanks, JF. Good man. Right. David, I don't think you've been on one of these lives for a long time. And look at that for an intro. Fabulous. Okay, so here we are, 10 minutes late, but what the heck? Good. Right, let me start again. Yeah, although you had to reboot as I couldn't type into the box. Okay, well, I think we've got a few gremlins going on, but let's see how we get on this afternoon. Right, let me take a quick swig of water before I expire. Just bear with me a sec. Thanks. Okie dokie. Here we go then. Well, it shows us that we're onto something good, doesn't it? It shows us that we're onto something good when there's gremlins all over the place. New live, the other page kind of closed after. Yeah, okay, fine. That's cool. Excellent. Okay, so JF, thank you for being there. Brand, fantastic. So primarily today, what we're going to be talking about is Earth energy. Before Christmas, we had a live, and we walked through fundamentally some basics of Earth energy, and really, we covered quite a lot in that last live, but. And JF, if you've got the link to the previous live, if you can pop that in the chat, then people can dig it out and on replay they can go back and connect to that as well. Thank you, good man. So we covered a lot in that live. Now, before we dive into Earth energy, I just want to tell you a couple of points of admin, which is where I got to when I was told that nobody could hear me. So. It all seems rather irrelevant now. There's membership. You can join as a supporter of the channel. There are 15 wonderful supporters on the channel. The fee is a small fee, $4.99 a month. But I try to put videos to answer questions specifically to those supporters. So we do get probably more of a flow. They're very basic videos. They're like video diaries. It's more like warts and all stuff. And they're more conversational, but that's what the supporters are getting in there in that side of things, right? So $4.99, you might think, well, that's quite a lot of money. Well, I fundamentally I get half of it. YouTube gets half of it, but it's a good way of keeping things rolling. So if you're interested in that, do join that. And I think what we will probably do in the future is to also link in some of the stuff that we do on the Knights Rose House Healing Network. Might well be integrated into some of that stuff on the supporters aspect, but we'll have more about that next live. We'll talk more about what the Knights Rose House Healing Network actually is now. Next month, on the Thursday, the 2nd of March, I am going to be joined here live. Let's hope the tech works. I'm going to be joined by Adrian Ingleton Webber will be here again. And so you've got a chance to ask us both questions about dowsing and earth energy and house healing and all that stuff, right? So hopefully we'll get the tech to work. Well done. You found us, Sean. Good. Excellent. Well done, Sue. Good. Yeah, that's it. Thursday the 22nd is the next live with Adrian. And so we'll be talking about not only the Knights Rose House Healing Network, which is gently evolving into something really interesting, but also, as I mentioned last month, Adrian is running an event, a live event in person. We're a weekend down in Wiltshire in the UK. If you're in the south of England, you might like to come along to the on the 3rd and 4th of June. It's Earth Energies Reconnected. He did an event, he organized an event with speakers and workshops last year, and there were about 80 or 90 people that attended that. And we're expecting the same this year. And in fact, already tickets are available from dowsingspirits.com or .co.uk. Not sure. Maybe JF, you could dig out Adrian Ingleton Webber's website. Tickets are available, and already I know that more than 20 have been sold already. So people are quite keen to get involved in that. I don't know whether there's a cutoff point. I honestly have no idea, but I'll be speaking at that event. So that will be organized. And not only that, I'll even use PowerPoint. Now, that'll be a rare opportunity. So do join us for that if you can. Right, that's the admin out of the way. Membership and live event, and keep your eyes open on what's happening with the Knights Rose House Healing Network, because it's fantastic. Really, wow, everything's starting to really shift. I don't know whether you've noticed that. Nick, good man. Yes, I had to hide behind a completely indescribable and indistinct thumbnail. So there's probably nothing there as an image, but technical problems. So have you noticed how much pressure we have all been under in the last 2 months? It's extraordinary. In their own little ways, everybody has been forced. We have been asked to make decisions, to make choices, to say and to categorize and to express to ourselves which side of the fence we are sitting on various issues that we may not have made any JF, yeah, mate. We may not have made any kind of conscious thinking process about in the past. This does have a relevance to earth energy. But we have been asked to make those decisions and to really start to understand that what we believe consciously and what we believe subconsciously, which is a bit trickier, is really, really very important to our experience of how we live in this environment that we find ourselves in. So yeah, huge changes. Yeah. Well, and what I'll do, actually, just to remind people, if you can put if you want to direct a question directly at me, let's put at Tim Walter, and I can see it a bit clearer. Otherwise, chat amongst yourselves, obviously. And JF will shout out questions that I miss. But this is really important. This is because what we've got now is we've got this wonderful time that we're now entering that is really like that wave of change is really now starting to gain momentum and gain height and gain power. And what we're going to be talking about today is really all about our own ability to step into our power, as we use the expression co-creative beings. But really, we could say as creative beings, as much as anything. So, but we'll stick with co-creative because that's the standard expression, and we all understand exactly what that alludes to. It's the spiritual aspect, the consciousness aspect of us, and everybody that is regular on these lives. Hi, Jenny, good to see you. Everybody that's regular on these lives knows that we talk about this stuff from the perspective of the spiritual being within the human body. And what we are talking about is actually connecting to that spiritual part of us. I don't think I can use the word spiritual more in 60 seconds than I just have. It's a rather overused word. And we can define it in so many different ways. We can call this aspect of us, the part of our higher self. We can consider that we have part of our higher self present within us, and we can consider that perhaps that's our soul self. I mean, I like the expression soul self because it directly relates very clearly to that part of us that exists when the physical body has ceased to serve its purpose. So when we die, there is no death, that the soul self clearly carries on. Now, I'm gonna you'll have to excuse me as I look down here to my notes, because having made notes, I might as well try and use them. So last time, what we looked at was very much about the way that the Earth is connected to the universe through um, Earth energy, and we were talking about the fact that you can identify electrical currents in the universe, in the physical universe, and the electrical flows down from space through the atmosphere of Earth to Earth. Those are known as Birkeland currents, and then you get fields of energy, based fundamentally electrical energy, spreading out around the Earth. Now, this is an electrical environment. We talked about this last time, and there is always an electrical charge on the Earth, and we are fundamentally electrical beings. And that's really important when we start to think about Earth energy. Just going to recap briefly on some of those aspects that we covered last time, and then we'll pick up some more points and maybe go into some more detail about them. Okay. So the big thing to bear in mind for anybody that hasn't covered it before is uh, cheers, Mark, is the Thunderbolts project. That's probably worth a link, actually, JF. Thunderbolts project is worth exploring for anybody that wants to look at the electric universe theory from their perspective. It's very much the electric universe. This idea of living in an electric environment is very much becoming a mainstream scientific concept that they're following, and there's huge amounts of evidence that so much of the cosmos is actually formed through electrical exchange, not so much about the power of gravity. But let's not get too distracted into that. Right now, Earth energy. When we come to start to look, when we look at Earth energy down here, what we said last time was that Earth energy is absolutely everywhere. Earth energy is also a catch-all phrase that we as dowsers, fundamentally, we all do some dowsing. Fundamentally, it's a catch-all phrase, and when we go out with our dowsing rods or a pendulum and we say, "Right, can you show me some Earth energy?" Blah blah blah. We're talking about trying to interact with Earth energy. It's very likely that some of us are tuning into one type of Earth energy, some of us are tuning into another type of Earth energy, some of us are tuning into another type of energy. And Rory Duff is your man for categorizing those different types of Earth energy. Now, to me, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Earth energy is the very basic flows of Earth energy, which can be categorized in Rory's categories as, I think, 3 or 4 Earth energy lines, and there are various widths of them. And just like the energy flows within the human body, just like energy meridians within the human body, there are massive meridians, just like there are massive veins and arteries, and there are tiny tributaries. And what I love talking about, and we will touch on this, and I will relate this very specifically to people's homes, is the Earth energy that you can find in your own home. That, to me, it makes it absolutely personal, and there's a reason why it is absolutely personal, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, so we covered that aspect last time. So we also touched on how Earth energy, what is it? Geomagnetic energy, electromagnetic energy. Well, yeah, fine. So if we say it's electromagnetic energy, well, we exist in an electromagnetic spectrum. So virtually anything is defined by the fact that it is somewhere on the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. So we say, well, it's geomagnetic geomagnetic energy. And geo just means it's of the Earth. Well, whereas in fact, what we know now is that actually there's there's a lot of this stuff in the universe. So Earth energy is in a way a misnomer, but that's the one that we grew up with. So that's what we're sticking with. But why is it important? Be patient. We'll get to it. So It relates to quantum physics because you can say that it is extra concentrated flow of the stuff that matter is made of. That's one way to look at this. These lines of Earth energy. It is all about the manifesting process. Regulars know this. Regulars know that we talk about Earth energy from this point of view. Now then, what we also know is that we, as human beings, whether we are connected deeply to our soul self, as we talked about before, or whether we are actually fairly disconnected to it, we can imprint Earth energy with mere thought. So things that are called chi lines. So chi, the earth, the lifeblood, the life force, rather, not lifeblood, the life force that drives us, that gives us the energy to live, that is the spark of life. Chi, they call them chi lines. If you just think of a line and you think of that being marked down, and then you ask somebody that is a dowser to go and find that chi line, you don't tell them where you've thrown it, they will find it. So what is that saying? That's saying that Earth energy is a very receptive material. It's a very receptive aspect of matter that can be very much manipulated, imprinted by the mind. Let's just move on from what we covered last time and we'll just dive into this, because fundamentally, if you want to know what we covered last time, you can go and watch the program. So the point here is that as soon as we start to consider that Earth energy, that we live in a sea of Earth energy, which we do, it is the sea of quantum foam from which all matter is formed, is perceived to be formed from moment to moment. Now, I say is perceived to be formed because when we start to talk about the real self, which is the soul self, which is that part of us that is connected to the ultimate creator, eventually along the flow of information that allows us to be present in this three-dimensional environment. So we're talking about the soul self is the real self. This is all formed in order to contain the soul self, which naturally is not held in a three-dimensional state. Naturally, the soul self that comes through from the environment that we would call heaven, simply because it is vibrating at a much higher frequency than our three-dimensional environment. Naturally, the soul self does not exist in a state that is held by the atomic structure of the three dimensions. So the universe, even the three-dimensional universe in which we exist, much of that, if you read the book by Robert Temple, the book that is the new science of heaven, that has been bandied around a lot of the big Facebook groups. Okay, yeah, excellent. If you read that book, what Robert Temple is talking about is the fact that most of the universe, 99% of the universe, is actually in a state of matter that is known as plasma. Now, the thing about plasma, there are various different types of plasma, but the thing about plasma as a whole is that it is not fully bonded atomic structure, right? So it's a different form of matter. We've got solids, liquids, gases, and that's it, isn't it? Solids, liquids, gases, and plasma. Is that right? Or is there something missing? I mean, we obviously, as metaphysicians, say we got spirit as well, but actually plasma and spirit really can be interchangeable. So given that most of the universe now is accepted to be fundamentally plasma, to the extent that it's 99% plasma, which is not completed atomic structures. The thing about plasma is they call it it's built, it's made from free electrons, right? Well, let's not get into the science because I don't fully understand it. But the point is, it's not like H2O, which is a solid atomic structure. It's made, it's all its open opportunities are made and held together, and it stays like that until you add energy and it converts into steam. And there you go. Still H2O, isn't it? As steam, it's water, it's steam. Now, the thing is, so what this means is that actually our existence here in the 3 dimensions of a fully formed atomic structure is unusual, right? Now that in itself is a fantastic fact. It's a fantastic concept because it means that when we relate it to our existence and we think, well, let's say in the most basic terms, we come down from heaven and we have a human experience and then we disappear back to heaven. Well, the reason that Robert Temple called his book The New Science of Heaven was for that exact reason, because you think, well, you just drift off back into the universe and join the universe again in a different form, literally a different vibration, and you're still within the cosmos that we recognize, that we know we are in the 3 dimensions. Okay, so sorry, I've got to just read some of Fish and Chips just in case. Right. Right, yeah, great. Hello, Gina, nice to see you there. Yeah, well, indeed. I don't know about Tesla's etheric model, but I'm sure. I mean, Tesla was fantastic. I don't know a great deal about his stuff, but hang on, dowsing could be used to find electronic listening device. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, basically, all of that. That's the sort of thing. Oh, Jay, yes. Oh, gee, yes. There's all sorts of ways that we can analyze and break down the different dimensions and the different vibrational sort of harmonic frequencies in which we may or may not exist. And certainly, when we come to dealing with our experience here in the 3 dimensions, then our experience of life being the way that it is built upon those exchanges of information that we generate from within our bodies. So if we are coming at everything from the heart focused wavelength, heart focused vibration, then the resulting exchange, the resulting experience that we have is of a more heart focused vibration. So it's the soul self that is able to most effectively determine and adjust the vibration that we are transmitting through earth energy, through the system, out into the universe and back round again, is picked up by us, and then our experience of reality being projected, being experienced out here, being perceived through our 5 senses. So, and only in that very limited way that our 5 senses can pick up just the limited things that it can pick up. So this is why fundamentally the earth energy, the big thing about earth energy is simply its role in manifesting. And what we're talking about when we talk about earth energy and manifesting is the spiritual self, is that soul self. So if somebody asks me and says, well, actually, I want to know everything about earth energy. Well, actually, the best way to think about earth energy, for a start, is not to think of it as being an isolated, separate thing from any other aspect of your spiritual self. Because if anything, out of all of the aspects that we experience here as physical beings, then earth energy is the closest in vibration to our soul self. Now, when I talk about earth energy, some people do say, well, it can't be associated with the soul self because it's of the earth and not of heaven. And we know that heaven is where the angelic forces come down and assist us, and it all comes from upstairs. Well, it's all it's all everywhere and nowhere. There is, when you start to look at the non-local aspect, in other words, the when you start to go into the quantum realms and below the quantum realms, then time and space, they don't exist like we perceive them to exist. So to feel that we have to think of a spiritual energy as being the energy that comes down through the chakra, down through the crown chakra, right, and just comes from some amorphous place up in the sky or wherever it may come from, is actually is just silly, because we exist within that wonderful torus of energy that's flowing from, coming down through the crown chakra. Sure, yeah, sure. That's the best receiver that we've got at that level, and that's the best, highest operating chakra apart from the ones above it. You know, that gives us the informational throughput. It comes down through all of the chakra system and permeates through our body, but it also goes out through the bottom and goes back up again and through. And as it's doing that, it's mixing with the earth energy that we're living in. So we are not separate from anything, as Marx says. There is no separation. Yes, exactly. There you go. Fish and chips is that time and space have no properties at that level. But for our experience of living as human beings, clearly it does. Clearly it does. As we witness all the time. So so um, let me just get that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. In order to experience more of what we are all able to experience, uh, which is those aspects of the spiritual self, which everybody is now being opened up to more and more and more, right? This is the wave of change that we talked about right at the start. It is the environment that we're passing through. It is the input from the other fields of awareness, of consciousness, from God, if you want to use that expression, that are emanating and influencing our experience here in the three-dimensional environment. And again, I use the word here, actually, advisedly. It doesn't matter where we think we are. It is simply the influence of an external field of awareness, which is influencing our human physical fields of awareness and is changing the way that we are functioning. And you can describe that with whatever label you want to use, but that's the situation that we find ourselves in now. And so if we want to ride that wave, then what we need to do is to be more allowing and less resistant of the spiritual self, which sits deep within us, traditionally deep within us. And actually, what we're finding is that that spiritual self that is traditionally been deep within us is actually is becoming more to the fore. So our experience of the ability to manifest, our experience of the rigidity of the three dimensions is changing, right? Because it's only our conditioning that says that it should be as it is. It's only our human conditioning that we have bought into that says that even physical objects are not malleable by thought or by intention or by any of these more less mainstream forces, energies. So what we're dealing with is right now is not only individual change but also collective change, and that's why we have a lot of conflict about this existing, because what's happening is that we're all being asked um, to understand and accept our belief system for what it is. So if we believe something, then we are being asked to fully believe it. That's what's happening right now. That's the stage that we're at the moment, because in order for everything to move forward on that wave, then there has to be a commitment to those choices that we kind of think that, and now we're being asked to no, this is really what we think. This is what we think. And when I say what we think, what I actually mean is it's what we align our energy to. It's not actually about thinking, the mental energy. It's actually about what we align our energy to. Okay. Hello, Steve. I thought you were on earlier on. Maybe you came and went when we had to cut you off. Just want to refresh myself with the chat for a sec. Just bear with me and we'll come back to it. Hello, Margie. Nice to see you. Okay. Excuse me. I'm just going to take a sip of water. We will go. So just bear with me a sec. Lots of comments from Fish and Chips. Nice to see you there, mate. I'm assuming you're a mate. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, fine. All right. Okay. So I thought we'd actually scrolled through a whole bunch of stuff, but there's not. That's good. That's cool. So, Earth energy as a concept. If you're living in a house that doesn't feel right, or you're getting spiritual incursions, shall we say, and you get somebody in and they say, well, you've got some earth energy lines here, or you've got a crossing point, or you've got a ley line, somebody might describe it as. What do you do about it? Right? That's the common question. What do I do? That's what we see a lot in the big groups about pendulum dowsing and earth energies and that sort of thing. I'm living with a ley line. Somebody's come in and told me I've got a ley line. What do I do? Well, for a start, the best place to observe it from, and what I mean is observe the situation that you find yourself in, is to separate. Okay, so we use the word detachment, to separate yourself out from all of the immediate human-based concerns that quite often people do experience. So in other words, they quite often go into a state of, if it's not fear, then it's at least concern. And then if they, depending on who's told them about the earth energy line or the ley line, then there may be a degree of fear, because depending on that person's background, they may well really like horror films or something like that. And in which case, they may be experiencing their reality at a fairly low vibration. No judgment here, just saying, just sharing some past experiences. But equally, a lot of the time, what you've got to remember is that the subconscious is driving so much of what we experience. And it's very few people who can access or even get an inkling of what's going on in the subconscious, let alone do anything about it. But the subconscious is permanently linked to earth energy. because that is why it is important. We have to remember that earth energy is the carrier of the information that informs our experience of reality. What do I mean by that? I mean that earth energy is the carrier that creates the circumstance that we face every moment of our living lives as human beings. So if that circumstance is the fact that there's somebody comes along and says that you've got an earth energy line that is giving you problems, or you've got a spirit in your house, then it's earth energy that's carrying that information to your system, and your system is then generating it, and you are experiencing that situation. And it's then up to you to figure how you work with that situation. So somebody that has no idea of any of the, again, I'll use the word spiritual, the spiritual self within, is going to start to go to look for explanations and answers, and may well say, right, well, the first thing we're going to sell the house, we're going to move, and that's okay, that's fine if that's what you want to do. That's a very basic and fundamental choice to make based on the practicalities of living in the physical world. Okay, there's an issue with this space, this physical place, therefore I will move out of it. And that's great. Except what we know is that when that person moves to another place, a very, very similar circumstance is most likely to occur again, because that circumstance is being created partly by the individual concerned. The interesting, actually, fish and chips is, yes, indeed, fish and chips is touching on something there. It's a really good example because uh, hunting, yeah, it has. I'll just share this with you, and this might help you see. Fish and chips is all across it there, but this might help you see, for those of you that are sort of like saying, "Well, what's he getting at?" This might help. Example that occurred to me this week. We live in quite a rural environment, and I go out and feed the birds like a lot of people do, and I make a point of feeding the pheasants that we have here. There are quite a few of them, and earlier in the week, or I think it was Monday, I counted that there were 7 that came to mop up the feed, the seed, as I was throwing it out. So that's my experience. That's my scenario. That's the situation. There's me as an individual human being feeding these birds, these pheasants, and they are hilarious. Um, and there's 7 of them, and that's absolutely fantastic. Right, now I come back inside my office, and on the Tuesday, I think it was, there was a group of what I call Green Welly Brigade. They came down to do shooting, so they were basically shooting game birds. So immediately when we get that circumstance, my hackles rise, and I don't have a go at them at all. It's just not my place. They actually have rights to do that, and that's what we knew that when we moved here. Hello, Kathy. But my heartfelt desire was to communicate to those birds to tell them to get out of the way. Just get out of the way, and get out of the way of these people with the rifles, shotguns. So when I next fed the pheasants after this hunting party, shooting party had been out and done their stuff, there were 2 pheasants, right? So Wednesday, and this morning when I was actually going out. So yesterday, okay, the crucial part of this that I haven't said is that yesterday I was feeling quite low. So my energy levels were quite, just flat. And I certainly was not functioning from a high vibration anywhere here. And so there were 2 pheasants yesterday. And I was like, oh God, how much, 5 of them have been shot? Jeepers. I went out this morning, and actually was generally just feeling a hell of a lot more in tune with everything, and was feeling good, and had actually meditated quite pleasantly this morning. And, in that state of feeling good, do you know what? There were 9 pheasants this morning. So I don't know what the shooting party had been shooting at, but they certainly didn't get the pheasants. Now, so that's the story, is the pheasants, right? Pheasants were there, blah, blah, blah. There was a crisis point. I thought, and my experience was for a day at least, that the pheasants had been shot because there were only two of them coming back. But when I went out with the heartfelt, you know, things are good, things are good, that the heart creates as you tune into that. And as Fish and Chips says, as you, if you tune in and are on a harmonious level with every living thing that you can experience, then your experience of that scenario is going to be a good one. It's going to be an exciting one. The animals will respond to you at that heart frequency. And these little pheasants, they were fantastic this morning. Absolutely fantastic. The experience, yes, Kathy, yes, the experience matched the vibration. And that is the point that we get it. We acknowledge it. We hello, Lawrence, good to see you. We acknowledge it, we understand it, we comprehend it logically. But what we so often forget is that each moment is created in that way. It's not, it's created. The experience is created from, as Amit Goswami would say, infinite possibility that is available to us at each moment. Now, clearly, again, as he talks about, there are templates of existence and templates that form sort of bounded areas of possibility. So our the likelihood of us manifesting 9 pheasants, let's say, excuse me, is bounded within high possibilities, high probabilities, in fact, even as you get closer to that point of actually witnessing and seeing them and experiencing them. But equally, there is an infinite possibility that there could be other options. There could be a whole swarm of, you could have 100 pheasants out there, or you could have 500 pheasants out there, or there could be a swarm of lizards out there. You know, it's a possibility, because we are the infinite creative being that is connected to God, which is the infinite, the ultimate creative presence, right? So earth energy is vibrating on that high frequency that is so close to our soul self, our true self, that is within us as this rather ineffective processing mechanism. But equally, it's it's sorry, just reading Gina's comment. It's equally, it's a very, very effective method, because actually it's incredibly well built and uh, pretty bomb proof. That's a horrible expression, to the things that we do to it. So it functions perfectly well at containing the spiritual selves in an identity that says it is separate, and therefore in that separate identity, it learns things that it'll take back and build from. That's the whole point. We evolve, as we know. So what are we saying? So what we're saying is that when we think of earth energy, don't think of it as something out there that is separate to that amazing being that we know we really are. It is the closest thing that we can talk about, as far as I'm concerned, as close in vibration to that real essence of the self, the real creative essence of the self, the spiritual, the soul self. So when we talk about earth energy, think of the soul as being connected to that earth energy. And that's why the power center, that as we describe it, the little vortex that you can find in every room of your house, and and that I say, go out and look for it, go out and find it and sit with it. Why? Because it's not actually about the material world. The benefit of sitting with it and becoming familiar with the feeling of that earth energy, and when I say the feeling of that earth energy, what I'm saying is the feeling that you feel, which usually is a very elated feeling and heartfelt, loving feeling, as a result of connecting in the same way as you would connect to nature, but the same way as we connect to anything that we love. And it's being done at a very deep level because it's the truth, it's the honesty, it's the absolute fundamental of existence from which other things emanate out in fields of awareness and possibility and material form. So um yeah, it's that's why it's important. What more can I say? But there's not a lot, there's not a lot to say about earth energy. People come across it and get really excited by it, and you can spend a lot of time following earth energy lines across the landscape, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's great. I mean, I did it for a long time, and it is fascinating. And you do encounter some amazing people as you follow these earth energy lines, and you're there with your rod and all this sort of stuff. So you get in some terrific conversations. You can find some amazing sacred sites. And the key thing here is that, if you think about ancient spiritual tradition, the spiritual traditions have always said that sacred sites is where the veil between the worlds is the thinnest, which enables you to connect to spirit the most effectively. And that's absolutely true. Sacred sites, whether they're Neolithic sacred sites or whether they're a place of worship in Jerusalem or Paris or wherever, or Washington, I don't know, wherever. These are sacred sites, and they are called sacred sites because they have been used in worship, and therefore the earth energy has held that energy of worship. But equally, usually they have become places of worship, usually because they have been found to be optimized for that use. Well, subscribe just by hitting the subscribe button. If you want to join, there is a join button as well. The joining is the £4.99 thing where you can ask questions and I'll reply with little videos and video diaries and that sort of thing. So there is a join link somewhere. And when we get to 20 members in the join community, the supporters community, we'll be doing a private little live like this, but we'll do it on Zoom and we can actually have the conversation taking place. So that would be good. So we're nearly there. We've got 15 at the moment. So anybody else that wants to join, dive in. And there are some videos there for you anyway already. Some on symbolism, talk about symbolism, the symbolism of daily life, how that is manifest and what the management can show us through the symbols of what we see in our lives. But yeah, I won't go into details of that. Let's carry on with the earth energy at the moment. We've got 5 minutes or so, but I will have to go fairly soon. So people, questions. See you next time, Fish and Chips. I didn't see you'd gone. Sorry, mate. Okay. So what else we got? Oh yeah, and more long waves. It's easier to collapse. Yes. Right. Okay. So I know you've mentioned the long waves or energy vibration in the past, Mark, and so it's easier to collapse into form. It's easier to collapse into material form, is what you're saying. There is. No, that's fine, Sue. Don't worry. That's great. It'd be lovely to see you there. Right, JF. At the moment, I'm living over Yang water running underground water and have some concerns health-wise. Do I ask the management to move it? Yes. And that's a good question. Oh, right. Okay. So yes, you asked the management to move it, and this is part of your power. So is that a question from Mark then? I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. But if you are living over an earth energy or a water lines are great. Again, right? Water. We talked about pheasants earlier on. We talked about nature and animals. You can think of water as having a personality like an animal or like an aspect of nature, because of course it is. But there's a real personality to water, and we've got a stream that sometimes gets a bit upset and floods. But I've been doing some work with it, and physical work with shifting around rocks to help the flow of the water Sorry, I'll come back to that question in a sec, and we'll talk about how you communicate with it. But I've been doing this work out there, and I find it very, very therapeutic. Actually, it is a meditation, and um, I've been talking to the river, to the stream, um, and it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful to just feel that. Even if you don't feel like you gain a presence or like a devic presence of the water or elemental presence of the water replying to you, you don't have to have a kind of a standard conversation, but just to really feel very deeply that you actually are being acknowledged by this flow of natural energy, nature. It's extraordinarily comforting and wonderful, and really does help um, invigorate itself. Right. So where we've got water that is not being harmonious for us, right? First thing is, Mark, ask you're sensitive enough to be able to just simply ask the question of whether it is detrimental to you. Don't say negative, but ask the question of, is this detrimental to me? And ask, can I douse it on a scale of 0 to -10? So -10 being the most detrimental to you. Okay. So just simply ask. Yes, ask that. Right. Excellent. Fine. And it is. Right. Okay. Got it. So all you need to do is to actually sit in meditation, and you can do this. Sit in meditation. It doesn't mean that you have to have a glorious experience or a wow experience, but you sit in meditation and you just you focus on the management, your concept of the management, whether that be angels or whether that be go higher than elemental beings, go higher than nature spirits. Higher, I don't mean that in terms of better than, I mean, in our terms of vibration. Go to your perception of what you feel in your heart is the highest place possible. Go to God if you want to think of it like that, or you can go to the universe, as long as you think of it as lovely, wonderful, loving energy. It's the energy of creation, Mark. You know about this. And but then you just simply connect to that in your meditation. So you're aware that you are, in the same way as I was talking about the water being aware of me, I'm aware of the water is aware of me. You are aware of the management, and you know deep in you that the management is aware of you. And you just so you ask, and the water is there, and you just ask that the water, if you could just ask for the water to move away and just be present outside of uh, the plot of the house. So in other words, or the outside of the, where the house sits. So in other words, you want it to go, I mean, when you do it, you visualize where the space is outside of your house, and just ask it to move out into that space. And it will do it, and it will start straight away, but it's not going to go, way. It will gently, gently move out. And you can douse it and check where it is, and it will move. I can guarantee you. Let us know. Yeah, so tune into the high vibration, because what you don't want to be doing is tuning in from your lower chakras. So as we talked about earlier on, about the fact that we manifest our experience of reality based on our frequency level, which fundamentally we're saying about the chakras. So you want to be tuning into the highest possible vibration in order to ask for that to move, because all of this material world is created not just by us. This is not a human thing. We are part of the created process. And so the way that I see it is that these things that are unfettered, these things that are unaffected by the detrimental aspects of humanity, and we're brilliant at creating, I won't swear, brilliant at creating chaos and making a mess of things, which is going to change, by the way. That's that wave that we're on now is the wave of change that will result in a very different environment pretty damn quick, actually. So yeah, go for it, Mark, and let us know. Do you understand, or do you want me to clarify some more? Just pop up. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So RG, yeah, yeah. Again, the it's a fine balance between being cautious and keeping some of the less wanted stuff out, and being overly cautious and inviting that in accidentally. That's quite a fine balance. And it is something that we move on from. Um, yeah. So Mark is quite experienced, RG, um, at working with the deceptive energies that can be there and the trickster energy. Good. Thanks, Kathy. So, one of the points is that dowsing fundamentally is the safest way to access any of these energies. I don't want to get too burdened or too preoccupied with some of the stuff that you can encounter if you want to go wandering off and if you want to explore the darker aspects of some places. Fundamentally, if you go into any place or space that feels unpleasant, you don't open up your chakras and open up. And what we do say all the time is we do the protection. You do the protection, you put that in place, you be aware and you monitor it. And that's part of understanding the subtle energy management. So understanding that you're moving from working day to day with the physical energies, you're moving into a sphere that actually requires some management of those energies in order to make that experience a harmonious one. Now, I'm sure you're experienced, RG, but what we want to, I just want to make sure is that the caution that you're expressing is not one that stops people taking a gentle step in and exploring this a little bit for themselves. Yes, we have to be cautious, but to start with, we they don't need to be overly cautious. Most people are absolutely fine in terms of accessing stuff. One of the issues is that we do have to be nice and clear the energy field as much as we possibly can. And this is why I was expressing to Mark that actually you want to aim to the highest possible vibration, because each individual person has an absolutely unique energy field in the same way as the energy flows in their environment, the energy flows in their experience of the world are absolutely 100% unique. So the baggage that we gather from childhood through to adulthood and all of the stuff that can make us scared, can make us vulnerable, can make us feel a little bit more on the victim spectrum. And I'm not saying that any of this applies to you, RG. I'm just saying that generally, as a way of assessing subtle energy management, what I would recommend is caution, but not too much caution. There certainly is. How I've got some house healers in the house healing network. I haven't got house healers. There are some house healers in the house healing network who are extraordinarily good at dealing with some very dark energies. Most of us don't need to, because most of us don't come across them because they're not in our vibration. That doesn't mean to say that we're better than anybody else. Far from it. In fact, I think a lot of the time, people that have the toughest lives in the human experience and find the darkest and the really horrible stuff are actually probably the most evolved souls that have come and know exactly what they're doing at a very fundamental level of when they manifest as a human being and are willing to take on such pain. And I use the word pain advisedly too. So it's interesting, very. Um, the dark can't through the higher vibe. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. Great. Cool. RG, good man. Very good. Well, we got there in the end. I hope that that added a little bit to your feelings of understanding Earth energy, or really, I would just say, or really just your feelings of Earth energy. It crucially, it's absolutely is connected to your spiritual self, which is connected to your human self. So it's a pleasure. Thank you. Slightly less of a pleasure when 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 all the tech fails, but that was early on in the live, and we got through it in the end. So unless there are any last questions, I will take my leave, and we'll do this. Sally, good. We'll do this again next month when I'll be joined by Adrian Incledon-Weber, author of Heal Your Home 1 and 2, and a good friend of mine, Lottie. Hey, good. Yep. See you next time. Good, good, good. Look after yourself. I want to hear how you're getting on, Lottie, with your explorations. Sorry. Take care. Get a bash gums. Yep. Cool. Good. Do. And I'll see you soon. Got your book. Excellent. Nick, yeah, take care. David, thank you. Nice. Glad you stayed all the distance. That's lovely. Sean, yes. The double act, I know. Frightening. Okay. See you next month. Take care. Do look after yourselves. I'm trying to find the button now. Take care. See you.